Hey guys, welcome back to my channel if you're coming back, and hello to those who are new. Today's video is a review of episode 3 and episode 4 of the Percy Jackson series. I'm gonna try and continue on. I know series videos usually don't do too well on my channel, but I'm gonna try, and we're gonna see where it goes, where it lands and stuff. I have things to say for sure. I've got a few things to say. But before we hop in, there is one thing that I want to remind you guys about. I have a challenge going on from now until whenever it succeeds, or whenever I set the date in for. I don't want to do too long of an explanation, so I'll leave a link down in the description, as well as it should be popping up somewhere in one of these two corners, as to a little bit of a deeper dive into the challenge. But basically, challenge is trying to get me to 500 subscribers. So if you like the video and want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and like. If you guys like this video or this format, the best way to let me know is by the like ratio. I really like people having opinions. I really like people discussing their opinions and arguing their own certain points. But one thing that I want to make it very clear is to make sure that your comments are civil, because we are all part of the Percy Jackson fandom. We are all on the same side. We just have different opinions on what is important to us and to the story. So if you have things that you don't like about the Percy Jackson show, or either you have things that you do like about the Percy Jackson show, tell me down in the comments, because I'm really interested in your guys' thoughts. I didn't really respond to any of the comments in the last episode, but that was mainly because a lot of the comments were more towards each other. Everybody was having a conversation, which I really like, and I really hope that when you guys have a conversation, you keep it civil. Please, I don't want to become certain channels, because I really enjoy the source material, and I really enjoy what I can see people doing with the channel, or not the channel, but with the story. Without further ado, and without wasting too much more of your guys' time, let's hop right in. It has been a little over a week since I've watched episode 3, and I needed time to sit on it. I needed time to think and digest what I witnessed. Because, to be completely honest, I didn't really like episode 3. There were elements of the episode that I did like. I liked Medusa's portrayal very well. I liked how detailed they went into a little bit more into her backstory, which I greatly appreciate, because I never really, her being a consenting member and the relationship with Poseidon never really sat well with me. Although I kind of wish she was, there's a certain actress that I really wish portrayed Medusa, just because of the way that her voice was described in the book, and I think this actress's voice specifically matches the voice description in the book extremely well, and it's totally not because I had a crush on her character in Mass Effect.
Why? The admirals needed to hear the shock in your voice, Tali. Otherwise, they might not have let you try to retake the Gallery.
But we'll just skip. We'll just skip over that. We'll move on. But back to the actual Percy Jackson story. When I do reviews, I do that are based off of books, I break them down into 3 categories. You have quality, you have quantity, and you have accuracy. The quality of the movie, or of this specific episode, I would honestly, so far for the entire show, I would rank a 7. I think the CGI is doing really well, and I think they are doing a really good job of portraying certain aspects in Greek mythology to a detailed degree that they can get away with on a kids show, and I like that. I do. I like the detail that they put into the characters and stuff like that there. As for the quantity, they did, because the only other media that I have to compare this to is the movies, I would say they included a lot more. So I would give the quantity probably an 8, because they just managed to fit so much more into this single episode than the movie ever did, and I can greatly appreciate that, and I can understand that there were certain limitations to what they could actually put into the show and what they cut out. I like how they included the bus scene, but we'll get into the bus scene later. I like how they put a little bit more emphasis on Medusa's background and specifically her legend and how she was actually portrayed versus what actually happened in comparison. I guess we can focus on the Medusa story real quick, because the version of the story that I personally have always really liked and genuinely thought was probably the best portrayal of it. Trigger warning, by the way, the Medusa's story is pretty messed up. But the story that I knew growing up, and the story my grandma specifically told me growing up, was Medusa was a Athenian priestess that caught the eye of Poseidon, and Poseidon unconsensually did stuff to her. Her being turned into what is now known as a gorgon wasn't a curse like how it is often portrayed, but more of a blessing by Athena, so that no man could ever do that to her again. And that's a lot deeper than what I normally try and focus on, but that's the story that I like, and that's the story that I was taught growing up. And I kind of wish they had delved a little bit deeper into the Poseidon not being the greatest dude. I understand why they didn't, and I understand that the source material doesn't have that at all. In fact, it's, if anything, Medusa kind of is like hitting on Percy in the story in a really weird and kind of creepy way. But that's enough of the Medusa story and everything when it comes to the quantity. Like I said, I'm gonna give it an 8. They were able to put a lot more into this episode, but that leads me to the accuracy, which I'm gonna give, like, I don't know, a freaking 4. This episode, when it comes to the accuracy, really did a bad job. And I feel like this show is putting me on a roller coaster, because episode 1, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. You know, episode 2, great, loved episode 2. Episode 3, bad again. We're down here again. Why are we down here? You know, there were a few things that I really, 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 really do not like that they changed. Specifically, there's this weird, real bickeringness between Grover, Percy, and Annabeth at the very beginning of this episode, and they had their kumbaya moment at the end, which, for all intents and purposes, was extremely cringy, but in a fun way. I can respect the cringe a little, even though I unironically hate cringe, but it's I liked it. Was a well-deserved cringe moment.
You're gonna sing the song, aren't you? Okay.
Oh golly, the road's getting
Whatever.
bumpy. Consensus.
Accurately did not depict the relationship that they had going into this first thing. Also, talking about the bus scene that I mentioned earlier, they completely screwed that up. Completely. I don't know who wrote that specific section of the episode, but I don't think they should do that again, because that was really bad. The entire bus scene was completely wrong, and not even a little bit of it was even remotely close to the story, aside from it being in the bus, you know. And I personally love the bus scene in the book. Like, I was one of the scenes that I couldn't wait to see on screen, and they screwed it up. Like, there in this specific show, this specific book, there are like 4 scenes in the book that I desperately wanted to see on screen and get into fruition as an actual thing that I can witness. And the bus scene was one of them. If you're curious, the other three are the archway, which we'll get into in episode 4, the love, or the great tunnel of love, or whatever it's called, and then for those of you who have read the book, you'll understand a little bit off the top. I really, really hope that last one is in there, because that is peak Percy, right? So back to getting a little distracted. Back to my original point. I think accurately they did not do a good job. I think the entire episode 3 kind of sucked in that process. I was lost in the sauce, if you will, because I couldn't follow, because I was comparing it to the book the entire time. And the fact that I don't have the movie to compare the bus scene to really, really negates what happened in the show, because I can't be like, well, at least it was better than the book, at least it was better than the movie, because it didn't even happen in the movie. So I just have it to compare it to the book, and that dramatically takes away from this scene, because like I said, it was one of the scenes that I really wanted to see, because it's one of the scenes where Percy just kind of raw dogs life a little, and and you know, messes up a lot of stuff, but in a funny and good way. And I really wish I had got to see Percy crash a bus. I don't know. It was one of the scenes that I really wish they had included. So for the overall episode, strictly because of the accuracy being the main negating point, I have to give this episode no greater than a 5. I genuinely did not enjoy this episode. I'm going to go back once the show is done and watch it all in a row as like a movie. And I guarantee you my opinion will change, because I feel like this episode was not meant to be seen as an episode. So with that scoring and with my final thoughts put on place, we'll move on to episode 4, because it's a completely different story. Like I said, the show is a freaking roller coaster of events. All right, episode 4. Dramatically increased in its quality. I genuinely enjoyed episode 4. They changed very few things, and in my opinion, very, let's go. No, very minor details that I genuinely think almost improved a little bit. It kind of sped it up a little. So we'll start off with we'll start off with the first section of my review, which is the quality. Once again, I'm actually going to give this one a 9, because I think they did a little bit better, because you got to see an actual monster, and it looked good. It did. I thought it looked really good. The monster, specifically the Chimera, looked amazing. I kind of wish we got to see Echidna. Like, I really kind of wish we got to see Echidna. She would have been really kind of cool to see. The one thing that did kind of bug me is the actress who plays Echidna looked way too motherly. I know she's the mother of monsters, but in the book she's described as being almost monstrous before taking on her monster form, and that would have just been I think it honestly would have been better, because I was like, wow, this lady looks really nice. She kind of seems kind of sweet in a, I don't know, derogatory way, I guess. She seems like a sweet southern mother. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. But now for the quantity. Because I have the only, like I keep saying, the only source material I have it to compare to is the movie. I'm gonna give this one a 9. I know, crazy, right? But the thing is the things that they included in this episode is one of the 4 things that I really wanted them to include, which was the archway. This scene, chef's kiss. Really, really, really good. I liked the changes that they did. It builds a little bit more, and I can now actually see what their plan for the show is, and specifically their plans for the characters. This episode clarified why they started the way they started and is allowing you to see the growth. I know you can't get a perfect copy and paste, carbon copy rendition of the show, and the changes that they did, I can stand by. Which will lead me to the next point, being accuracy. I'll give this a 7. The only 3 major changes that they did, 2 of which I fully agree with and greatly enjoyed. But there were 3 pretty major changes. First off, probably the biggest one is how Percy falls. In the book, the wall of the archway kind of gets blown away and he jumps. In the show, the floor gets blown away and he falls. I've never seen the inside of the archway, so I was always under the impression that a window got blown out, because I, for some reason, thought the entire top part of the archway was like glass that you could like see the world through, not tiny little portholes. Because I was like watching this and I was like, you can't fit a person through those holes. So I know it's a really weird niche thing to poke at, but I like had no idea that that's what the inside looked like. So I was just sitting there flabbergasted on how Percy would, like, before the hole, or the hole in the ground got blown through. I was like, how is Percy supposed to fit through one of those holes? They're like 2 inches in width. They're tiny little portholes, and I was like, I don't know. It's just something that I had always imagined being just like a glass plane that gets blown away. But no, I genuinely like that change, but it is not very accurate to the book. I genuinely like the changes that they've done with the relationships of Percy and Annabeth to their respective parents, because Percy doesn't just like outright hate Poseidon for abandoning him. It's more of a, never knew the guy, so I don't really know. And him jumping off of the archway, he kind of prayed to Poseidon, but not as a last resort, but as a, hey, it would be great if I had some support. That would be awesome. But in the show, I really and truly like how he does not excuse Poseidon's mistreatment of him, and he doesn't excuse the gods' mistreatment of their children. And when he jumped and prayed to Poseidon, he was rewarded, and it was a lot less of a I got you, son, and more like that's my boy. That's how it felt. And I really like the relationship that Annabeth and Athena have, because it seems to fit Athena so much more than honestly in the book, because Athena almost was very apologetic for the actions of Annabeth in some ways. I mean, she was her like pride and joy and like her favorite child, but still Athena, the way that she acted in the books to everybody else, this portrayal of her fits, in my opinion, a lot better. It also, one thing that was from the 3rd episode that played really well into this episode was the correlation between Medusa and Annabeth, because she said something along the lines of, you are me. Like Medusa said, you are me to Annabeth. We are the same person. And in this episode, it plays out exactly that. She is the daughter of Athena. She is the proud daughter of Athena, and she worships her mother, puts her on a pedestal, not just because she's a goddess, but because she's the goddess of wisdom. And worships her to such a high degree that it's almost unhealthy. And Athena punishes her for being a kid. And that shows the type of person that Athena has always been portrayed in the books. Or not in the books, but like in the mythologies, which I really didn't necessarily like in the Percy Jackson books is Athena is almost always seen as like a good person, a good deity. Whereas in the mythologies themselves, she's always been extremely jealous and extremely conniving. And I'm really liking in the show how they are sticking closer to the mythologies, but accurately does not match with the source material. And then the third thing that they changed that I think benefited the overall thing, but also is a pretty big change, is just the first part of the episode where they're on the train, and then that's when they meet Echidna, and then the whole train getting blown up kind of, I say blown up kind of a thing, was a pretty significant change from the source material. However, I'm not gonna discredit it because it did. It sped up the episode. It made it a little bit faster, made it a little bit easier to digest, and I liked that change. But those are my thoughts, and I guess the score I will give for this episode is a solid 8.5. This was my favorite episode of the show so far. I am really looking forward to next week's episode. I won't be posting another Percy Jackson review video until the following week, because I want to have 2 episodes to work with, because it just makes these videos a little bit longer and a little bit more of an ability to get in depth, because I've noticed that every other episode is kind of an in-between episode. So with that being said, we can move on to the conclusion, I guess. I'm enjoying the show so far. I'm enjoying watching what they're doing with the characters. It took me a hot second to actually actively get interested in the show, I will admit. I was a little upset and a little salty and a little not feeling great about some of the decisions that they made, but I can now see where it's going. I can now see what it's going to do. I can now see what's in store, and I genuinely can't wait till season 4, which will be the Battle of the Labyrinth, which is my favorite Percy Jackson book. And then I can't wait for them to get into Heroes of Olympus if they manage to do that, because Leo is my favorite character in all of the books. So I am really happy with the main decisions that they've done. There were pretty major things that I didn't like in the 3rd episode, but overall, the show is doing pretty good. Let me know if there's anything that you have to say about the show. Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to keep it civil. I want to preface this. I'll do it in the very beginning. I'll cut here and put this at the very beginning of the video as well. I really like people having opinions. I really like people discussing their opinions and arguing their own certain points. But one thing that I want to make it very clear is to make sure that your comments are civil, because we are all part of the Percy Jackson fandom. We are all on the same side. We just have different opinions on what is important to us and to the story. So if you have things that you don't like about the Percy Jackson show, or either you have things that you do like about the Percy Jackson show, tell me down in the comments, because I'm really interested in your guys' thoughts. I didn't really respond to any of the comments in the last episode, but that was mainly because a lot of the comments were more towards each other. Everybody was having a conversation, which I really like, and I really hope that when you guys have a conversation, you keep it civil. Please, I don't want to become certain channels, because I really enjoy the source material, and I really enjoy what I can see people doing with the channel, or not the channel, but with the story. But I guess I don't really have anything else to say. So I will see you guys next week, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.